Alright, everybody. We are back. How you doing today? So it seems like social issues are the theme of the day. I almost want to consider changing the name of this channel. I haven't talked about foreign politics or globalism in a while. I'm feeling a little weird as such. But here we are from Ruptly once again. Joy of self-identification or social contagion? Why did trans become the trend? Yes, I know, the lefties will be sure to lambast me. Go for it. You have no idea what you'll be getting in return if you decide to come after me. You have no fucking idea. Changing one's gender is either a profound decision to live the way one truly is, or an expression of mental illness, depending on who you ask. Why then has it taken off in schools and become the Pokemon craze of our day? What's Pokemon got to do with this? Oh, whatever. Britain's schools are facing a transgender problem, with schoolgirls at London elite St. Paul's Girls' School identifying as trans or non-binary just to be cool and rebellious. Go figure. That's what former principal Clarissa Farr told the Daily Mail, discussing the problem with other teachers. Farr came to the conclusion that the girls were simply adhering to anything that was a bit radical and might cause a little bit of turbulence in the school. I think that in some cases that's probably just what it is. Children will always find ways to rebel. Sometimes the ways in which they rebel will be completely ridiculous. But at another school in the UK, a whistleblowing teacher claimed last year that droves of children were identifying as transgender, influenced by older pupils and transgender YouTube stars. In this case, the teacher knows that a majority of the children were vulnerable students with autism rather than teenage rebels. Yes, and I have a conclusion of my own for that. Social influence, naivete, gender confusion brought about by muddying the water, making the issue less clear. In other words, confusing a child in order to sell an agenda. Prove me wrong. I'm not saying that it's absolutely true, but that is what I believe for now. Want to change my views? Prove me wrong. Show me something that is absolute concrete to the contrary. Show me that you're not just manipulating naive children, naive autistic children, to sell your agenda. However, many of these students follow through. Rather than merely identifying as the opposite gender, 2,590 children referred to Gender Identity Development Service clinics in the UK last year, a network of clinics that provide support to trans kids right up to the irreversible hormone treatments and surgery. It's easy to dismiss the phenomenon as the rebelliousness of youth. Remember what you took seriously when you were in school, but cringe at now? Twilight fanfiction, My Chemical Romance lyrics, communism. Part of growing up is learning how to test the boundaries to see what you can get away with as you carve out your personality before the conformity of adulthood sets in. Communism? Communism. Might as well throw liberalism in there as too. I mean, let's face it, most liberals are not fully mature adults mentally. They might be physically, but not mentally. A lot of them are very childlike, and not in a good way, in a bad way. They're all a bunch of freaking Peter Pan type shit. But, yeah. I mean, you can't necessarily explain this away as just childhood rebellion. I'm sure there's an element of that to it. I've already said my piece on what I think it is. Now it's up to you good people, if you want to prove me wrong, to tell me why I'm wrong. But yes, this is going to have a negative impact on overall human fertility. Because, little fact hint, post-op transgenders can't have children. This could easily cause entire populations to disappear within the next 60 to 70 years. Too soon? Let's try 200. But it's within that period, anywhere from 70 to 200 years, entire populations could disappear if this becomes any more popular. There's a reason why some people think there's honest conspiracy theory to replace the native population of European countries with foreigners, and using whatever methods they can to make natives not have children. Mind you, I think it's sort of like, it's one of those things that, like, if you squint your eyes, you can kind of see it, but it's not necessarily there. It's just that most Europeans, people of white descent, currently have a very shitty reproductive strategy that it just isn't working. There's no conspiracy to kill us off. And of course, the Jews are the ones who are always behind it. Scapegoat the Jews. Like, that totally doesn't make you look like an insane Nazi conspiracy theorist. Oh no. God forbid. Anyway, as the article continues, it says, and a certain tiny percentage of people have always been transgender, according to the American Psychiatric Association's DSM-5 manual. Gender dysphoria affects between 0.002 and 0.014% of the population, with more men than women exhibiting the condition. Why such a rare condition, not classified as a mental disorder since early 2018 by the World Health Organization, became so popular among kids, is a question with several answers. According to one study from Brown University, Professor Lisa Littman, social contagion explains the spread of trans ideology among kids. The study says there are children exposed to peers who recently came out as transgender and followed popular trans YouTubers themselves before coming out. That lends credence to my theory. As well as revealing themselves to be trans, these children also adopted wholesale the dogmas of the social justice movement. They lashed out at heterosexual people, and especially at straight white men. They played pronoun police at home, and parents called breeders by their newly indoctrinated children reported that their kids' new social justice vocabulary sounded scripted and wooden, as if it had been lifted word for word from the manifestos of trans activists. So even the parents are talking about this now. Leftists and liberals for some time now have been trying to convince me that SJWs don't exist. There is no modern progressive movement that is actually taking us backwards and into degeneracy. It's all made up. Conservatives invented it. Really? I've got a bridge to sell you. To quote a good friend of mine who has a YouTube channel. Watch Vin and Sorry. Vin, I have a bridge to sell you. It's in Brooklyn. To quote Vin. Referring to the phenomena as a mass sociogenic illness, cognitive scientist Samuel Vissier urged, damn French names, urged parents, educators, and clinicians to treat with caution. Good luck with that. Educators have seemingly listened, nodded, and thrown that advice on the trash heap. Excuse me. From public libraries stocking books describing oral sex between transgender 6-year-olds. Ugh! Ugh! What did I just read? Oh, God! The Transgender Day events for 4-year-old students to transgender charities, instructing teachers on the benefits of giving children hormonal puberty-blocking medications to kids. This year's advice is falling on deaf ears. Am I going to throw up? Because I think I'm going to throw up. God, what the... Pardon my language, what the fucking hell? God damn it. Sorry guys, I didn't mean to lose it like that, but that is truly disgusting. Even the taxpayer-funded BBC now tells preteen children that there are over 100, if not more, gender identities. Now the fact that there are over 100 genders has not been established by scientists, but by trans activists. Among them is the term gender fuck, used to describe people who present a clashing combination of gender cues that are incongruous, challenging, or shocking to those who expect others to fit the gender binary, for example, combining a beard with makeup and a padded bra. That's called being a weirdo. That's called being queer. The original meaning of the word, of course, is, queer is just being strange. That was the meaning of the word in its proper context. And really, gender was originally invented to describe the social behaviors of men and women prior to all this trans insanity. It was originally meant to describe the social behaviors of men and women because the definition of maleness by simply the word man was in of itself lacking in descriptive power, or the word woman also lacking in descriptive power. So to explain men and women, or male and female, in a deeper way, they invented gender to explain these social behaviors. It wasn't long before that this sort of it wasn't long before this sort of thing started appearing. Little bit by little bit, gender started becoming more fluid with each passing decade until now we are where we are now. And by the way, I've been to the Tumblr blog that all these SJW types constantly go to, the one where they have their quote genders all listed, and I read the descriptions of the various quote unquote genders, and well, some of them started to sound a little familiar. I'm like, where have I heard these before? And then I realized, oh my god, these are the Jungian personality types, reframed as genders. These are just Jungian personality types. They think they conflate personality type with gender. These people don't even know what the word even means. Jung is in his grave, rolling around and screaming his Swiss head off right now. His ghost will not rest. Anyway, to finish off the article, in challenging the march of transgender acceptance and encouragement, schools can be dangerous. The whistleblower mentioned above, who called out the trend in her school, did so anonymously. Professors who question the trans movement get fired, and public figures who dare to suggest that 3-year-olds can't choose their gender get press-ganged into apologizing by online cry-bullies. In our liberal society, we strive to teach our children acceptance, yet there's a difference between accepting diversity and encouraging children who just learned how to tie their own shoelaces to swap their gender with hormone injections. With our civilization no longer ruled by the strict morality of religion or the dictates of Puritan tyrants, everything is permitted and nothing is right or wrong. But parents and teachers need to be their own moral arbiters. Speaking out against feckless transgenderism can cost you your job. But the consequences of rash gender reassignment can be a lifetime of regret and a dramatically heightened risk of suicide for the patient. Indeed, that is true. That's the real reason why the transgender suicide rate is so damn high. It's so damn high. The fact that actual transition from one biological sex to another should be enough to tell you that this nonsense is crazy. You can get to a point where you look very much like the opposite sex, but you are not physically the opposite sex. Though you can get really close. But now, this is something of a false premise. This is a false premise, saying that our liberal society, we strive to teach our children acceptance, yet there's a difference between acceptance, diversity, and encouraging children who just learn how to tie their own shoelaces. Our civilization no longer being ruled by strict morality of religion or the dictates of Puritan tyrants. Everything is permitted, and nothing is right or wrong. That is in some way a false premise. Now let me explain that. That is sort of like a fallacy in a way. You're assuming that because there's no authority that enforces the rules, that suddenly all the rules are going to be broken. The thing is, okay, so let's ask this. If it suddenly became legal to commit murder, would you then commit murder? No, because you know what's really preventing you from doing it? Your sense of right and wrong, which have nothing to do with an authoritarian presence. It has everything to do with your conscience, with what you know and believe to be right and wrong. Conscience is what's involved, not some authoritarian power. And conscience is really just sort of an extension of your unconscious. It is sort of your instinctive, more of the instinctive side of your intellect. It's instinct. You know something about it isn't right. And of course, nowadays the liberals are like, oh, you're just going based on a gut feeling. That isn't empirically proven, blah, 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 blah. Strict adherence to empirical data is just asinine. Because there's some things you simply cannot measure. You cannot measure the sensation of pain. Trying to do so would be arbitrary and could not be satisfied empirically. And yet we know pain exists. You cannot weigh or study intangible things like thoughts or memories. So those are non-demonstrable from a empirical standpoint. Empirical evidence is a good standard to follow, but it is not the be-all end-all. Psychology proves that, because psychology straight out defies the empirical standard. It is a mental illness that has become a popular zeitgeist. Simply because these open-minded progressives, yeah, their minds are so open that they'll basically accept literally anything, and then start attacking conservatives like, you're picking on that poor minority! Stop picking on that poor minority! They're not a minority. They're the mentally ill. You're naive. You accept basically anything at this point. Anyway, I'm done. I'm gonna go vomit now. I'm not kidding. I'm gonna go vomit.